Hello everyone. This game was my third attempt at trying to beat maximum 3200 of chess.com, and my rating after this game had triple fives in 3 different categories. So I was asked was it a coincidence that there were triple fives, or was I making some calculations that resulted in triple fives? To be honest, when I played the game, I didn't know what the results would be, and I didn't think I would be asked to explain it. So I wasn't that focused. So what I'm going to do now is that I will try to retrace my steps and see what was I thinking or calculating at the time. Try to remember best I can. I usually mostly play by black's perspective, because I find it I understand the game better. And by the way, as we go forward, I won't be able to explain the moves by the names of the pawns or the names of the boxes, because I don't know them. I'm sorry about that. I never studied chess professionally, so I don't know these names. I only know the main names of the pieces, and that's how I'm going to explain it. So it's white to move, so let's see what move did white make. I believe this is the queen's gambit. So what did I make? I came back to it with the same thing. So here white took out the knight. Obviously its aim cannot be to just simply to land in the black boxes close in the same row as my pawn. It's a pointless jump. It definitely, I think, wants to jump from here to the white box below, from where he can get either the rook or the queen. And these are really powerful pieces in the game, and to lose them so early on in the game would not be good for me. So what I did was I took out the knight to make space for to save the rook, to make space for the rook. The queen is still trapped though. So this, I think, is the bishop gambit. So I'm assuming that white expects me to capture its pawn, which I think is a trick. So I'm just going to leave. I'm not going to move my pawn over here. Instead, I'm going to focus on the bishop behind the pawn that was sent forward. I think the aim is to move this bishop, and it's just a trick to get me to capture the pawn when the danger is from the bishop. So what happened? Yeah, I moved my pawn to block the bishop, as I suspect it is white's intention. There, I was right. Now white saw that I moved the bishop to block it, and still it came down. I think white definitely knows that I'm going to remove the knight from here, so this is probably a mock charge. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to remove the knight, because if I don't, very likely the bishop will capture it, and then I can capture the bishop with the pawn above the king, but I don't want to lose the knight at this point. So let's see, what did white do? Does it go down for the queen? No. It took out its knight. So as I suspected, this bishop was definitely mock charging to come to this point. It has, at first it wanted to come here, I think genuinely. genuinely, but when I bought the pawn here, it decided to make it into a mock charge just to scare me, and it had some other piece it wanted to play. So what I'm going to do now, what I'm saying now is what I thought at the time when I made those moves. I'm repeating everything now so that we can hopefully discover what were the moves that resulted in the 555. So I'm going to sacrifice my knight and take this knight, because I think if I don't, it will definitely get it anyway. So better take the white knight. Okay, what's the next move? Yep, the horse is gone. So I decided to play the bishop gambit now, because I know that at this point, I suspect at this point, white is not expecting me to play this pawn. So that's what I did. So what will white do now? It played the pawn above its king, and I think this too is some sort of a trick. So I think it thought that maybe now I would capture its pawn, because it's become too many pawns over here. But I decided to let it go again and instead move my bishop. So what did white do? It moved the queen, its queen, and of course the queen joining the main war zone is definitely very threatening. So how do I counter that? How did I counter that? I moved my other bishop, and this helps me begin to clear up for my king to castle on either side, which will ensure some sort of safety for the king. She came down for the pawn, and now my rook and knight are in serious danger. But of course I think she's going to go for the rook, not for the knight, because it's a stronger piece, and I can't get her in that way because of the knight. But what I did was, I did not remove the knight. Instead I played this pawn. I have no idea why I did this. I think white was definitely expecting me to make the knight jump at this point to at least save it. But instead I left the two pieces where they are, and I moved the pawn over here. So what does white do? It took my rook as I suspected, and I guess what did I do? Now I made the horse jump to save it, and now I'm in the same row as the queen, and the white queen takes the black queen, and this, with no danger to the king, he can take the white queen, and this is basically an exchange of the pieces. I'm happy with this result because the other side also loses its queen. So far so good. Let's see what does white do next. Okay, it brought the bishop to this box because it can't go upward because that's pointless. It's all white territory. And it's in the same set of a diagonal line of dark boxes leading up to the king. So what is white planning? What's the idea behind this? I think it wants to somehow pin these pawns to the king. So what did I do next? I played my own bishop next to it to threaten its knight. Okay, now it decided to finally capture my pawn, which had been sitting there since the beginning of the game. So what did I do? I think, by the way, for it to capture the pawn now, is that I think white got tired of trying to get me to move my pawns in this boxes, these like 4 boxes that became of 2 white and 2 black pieces. And it realized that I was going for its main pieces instead of the pawns. So I think it's trying to distract me to think that this is serious. The pawns are really going to move forward and maybe promote to a queen. So what did I do next? I ignored it again. As you can see, I continue to ignore the pieces, the pawns, and I instead took the knight with my bishop. Of course, this is also a bishop sacrifice because they're definitely going to get the bishop by one of these pawns. But I do want the queen, the king's guards to break up, and that's what happened. So what does white do next? Oh, sorry, what did I do next after moving my horse? The knight. Yep. I moved the knight here because I finally decided to take these pawns, but not with pawns. I still want to move my main pieces forward. So I bought the knight here. Let's see what does white do. Now white knows that I'm probably going to move the bishop out of the way, and it still moved its rook because I think I'm not sure what it's planning at this point. Let me see, what did I do? I left the bishop and instead I took the pawn from the boxes. So you see, what I basically did is that I'm ignoring all of white's threats. Every time white makes a very direct, strong threat that is going to take one of the big pieces, going to do that, going to do this, I ignore it and I instead do something completely different when it's not expecting it. White was definitely thinking that I was going to move the bishop. Instead, I leave the bishop in the line of danger and I take the pawn. So what happened next? It took my bishop. So what did I do here? My king is definitely in danger and so is my rook. But I know that in order for it to come down, the next move will be mine, so I'll be able to capture the white rook. So I leave everything over here as it is and I take another pawn. Now this is the pawn that is going to turn rather troublesome for me, because now I don't really have the pieces to easily capture this pawn which is coming forward to promote. And I guess these are the mistakes I made in the game, because I eventually lost this game. So let's see what happens next. I move the knight and then now the other rook wants to capture the knight, and at this point I feel the knight is rather hopeless. So I feel that if I can take the rook, capture the rook, it will be worth the sacrifice. So I move this pawn which is next to the king, and this also makes space for the king to be able to move around easier to avoid checkmate. And I believe the rook comes down for the knight, and then I capture the rook. But at this point the game is definitely lost, because once the rook comes in the row before the king is trapped in the file below, so it becomes actually rather easy to checkmate the king. It becomes very easy to checkmate the king once you have a rook and the king really has nowhere, not a lot of space to go anywhere. So I basically knew the game was lost the moment the rook came here. And it's coming forward to promote. I brought the rook closer to the king because this provides, I think, a better protection than for the king to be by himself. Now the king has to move because it's in the danger zone of the pawn. And then it's checkmate, because like I said, the king is trapped over here. He doesn't really have anywhere that he can go, and I don't have the pieces to fight off the rook, and this was finished. It was game over for the king. So these were the steps. So what exactly resulted in the 555, I don't know, but viewers can analyze and hopefully find the results, what caused the results. Thank you, everyone.